Watch this. But they didn't want to answer. The U.S. Department of Justice officials expressed frustration about prisoner swap when deal narrowed to 1-for-1, sources say. After months of behind the scenes discussions inside the U.S. government about efforts to secure the release of Americans held in Russia, including Paul Whelan and Brittney Griner, the outlines of a deal emerged in the past week. People briefed on the matter said. White House officials briefed government agencies that Russians will only agree to swap convicted Russian arms trafficker Viktor Bout for WNBA Brittney Griner. Hold on, y'all. Let's see who this is. Wait, let me keep going. Justice Department officials who were always opposed to releasing Bout expressed frustration that an earlier deal that included Whalen had been narrowed to Griner. One U.S. official said law enforcement officials raised strenuous objections and were told the decision had been made. For the law enforcement officials from the FBI and the Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, which spent years and elaborate efforts to try to capture the convicted arms dealer, the release of Bout raised an additional concern about the precedent the deal could set. Bout, a former Soviet military officer, was serving a 25-year prison sentence in the United States on charges of conspiracy to kill Americans, acquire and export anti anti-aircraft missiles, and provide material support to terrorist organizations. Bout has maintained his innocence. The publicity surrounding Griner, including celebrities posting criticism of the Biden White House on social media for not moving more quickly release to secure her release, appears to raise the Russian price for Griner's release, law enforcement officials said. That adds to concerns that the deal increases the likelihood that Russia, Iran, and other countries could use the arrest of Americans to try to use the publicity to gain concessions to the U.S. otherwise wouldn't give. So, y'all telling me y'all swapped out somebody that was with some bud, some oil, some marijuana oil in the vape for a murderer? Yo, come on, dog. And then y'all don't let the other guy out. This is crazy, dog. Check this out, y'all. Cool Rod, what up? So this is your guy here. Brittney Griner's freedom ultimately hinged on the release of convicted Russian arms dealer whose life story inspired a Hollywood film. Oh, this news is big. The U.S. basketball star was released on Thursday from Russian detention center in a prison swap for Viktor Bout, nicknamed the Merchant of Death. So y'all let the Merchant of Death get out for the LGBTQ Snoop Doggy Dogg? Yo, Bout, a former Soviet military officer, was serving 25-year prison sentence in the United States on charges of conspiring to kill Americans, acquire and export anti-aircraft missiles, and provide material support to a terrorist organization. Bout has maintained his innocence. The Kremlin has repeatedly called for Bout's release, slamming his sentencing in 2012 as baseless and biased. Russia's foreign ministry said Thursday that Bout returned home to Russia after an exchange at Airport, Abu Dhabi Airport. So they sent him to uh, Abu Dhabi Airport. What's that? What do they call it? On tip of my tongue. Dubai. They sent them both to Dubai and did the switch there in Dubai and let them both go. So Brittney be here in 24 hours. So we'll see her all over the news on Friday. For a long time, the Russian Federation has been negotiating with the United States on the release of VA Bout, the ministry said in a statement. Washington categorically refused dialogue on the inclusion of the Russian citizen in exchange scheme. See, they still won't talk about it. Nevertheless, the Russian Federation continued to actively work to rescue our compatriot. It added that a result of Russian negotiations with the U.S. Bout had been returned to his homeland. Bout's U.S. lawyer, Steve Zizzo, said that Bout was with his wife and daughter. We are grateful that after 15 long years, Viktor has finally been reunited with his family, he added. Griner, who had been in years played in the off-season for a Russian women's basketball team, was arrested on drug smuggling charges at the airport in Moscow region in February. Despite her testimony that she had inadvertently packed the cannabis oil found in her luggage, she was sentenced to 9 years in prison in early August and was moved to a penal colony in Moldavia in mid-November after losing her appeal. The swap, which U.S. President Joe Biden confirmed on Thursday, did not include another American that the State Department has declared wrongfully detained, Paul Whelan. Whelan was arrested on alleged espionage charges in 2018 and sentenced to 16 years in prison in a trial that U.S. officials had called unfair. Griner and Whelan's families had urged the White House to secure their release, including via prisoner exchange if necessary. At the center of their bid was Bout, a man who eluded international arrest warrants and assets freezes for years. The Russian businessman who speaks 6 languages was arrested in a sting operation in 2008 led by U.S. drug enforcement agents in Thailand, posing as the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, known as acronym FARC. He was eventually extradited to the U.S. in 2010 after a protracted court proceeding. Viktor Bout has been internationally arms trafficking enemy number one for many years, aiming some of the most violent conflicts around the globe, said Preet, the U.S. attorney in Manhattan, when Bout was sentenced in 2012. He was finally brought to justice in American court for agreeing to provide staggering number of military-grade weapons to an avowed terrorist organization committed to killing Americans. I'm not going through all this. That ain't necessary. I do want to know what movie they made about him. Bout, who reportedly has used their names, including Viktor Bout, Viktor Butt, Viktor Bolkin, and Vadim Manonov, is thought to have been the inspiration for the arms dealer character played by Nicolas Cage in the 2000 movie Lord of War. I don't know if I ever saw that movie. In 2002, CNN's Jill Daugherty met with Bout in Moscow. She asked him about the allegations against him. Did he sell arms to the Taliban, to Al Qaeda? Did he supply rebels in Africa and get paid in blood diamonds? And he denied each claim. It's a false allegation and it's a lie, he said. I've never touched diamonds in my life, and I'm not a diamond guy, and I don't want that business. I'm not afraid, he told Dory. I didn't do anything in my life I should be afraid of. Okay. I don't think that's an even swap. They should have gave both Americans up for this guy. Like, this guy's a real guy. Like, this girl has some bud in the oil form. You know what? Let's see what they say here. And once again, I'm using this under fair use. All right. That's the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. This is allowance for use under fair use. Let's see what they got to say about this here.
I hugged him and kissed him and told him I loved him.
10 years later.
You were the last person to sit down with Viktor Bout for an interview. I've seen your interviews. He denied in those interviews that he was guilty of the crimes he was charged with. He called them BS. Fact is, though, those crimes were well documented. Tell us more about them.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's what he eventually found himself extradited to the United States from Thailand for, which was a complicated sting put forward by the DEA, US agents who were pretending to be Colombian terrorists and got Viktor Bout to essentially agree to supply them with a high-tech weaponry. That led to a lengthy extradition battle that got him extradited to the US, that led him to be convicted and put into a US jail. And then there's the career history, which is an extraordinary litany of crimes that Viktor Bout has denied. And they involve the proliferation of small arms, heavy arms across Africa during some of the nastiest wars there of the 90s and the early 2000s, and other accusations of arms trading. Frankly, you name it, in the 90s and early 2000s, if there was a war, there were accusations that Viktor Bout may have been involved supplying what the West would have considered to be the wrong side. He always denied that entirely. But Jim, that was the extraordinary paradox here. Why is a man who says he's basically just an innocent pilot and a businessman shipping foodstuffs or other materials around the world, why is he of such extraordinary value to Moscow, a man that they spent thousands of us seemingly assisting his defense here and there, trying to get him back over the past decades. And now at a time of the worst relations between Moscow and Washington, possibly since the Cuban Missile Crisis, you might argue, this remarkable deal where a high-profile American held by Russia is switched for a possibly higher profile in the mind of Russians, in American custody. That's quite extraordinary. The broader theory about who Viktor Bout really was in the past is perhaps he was a man close to Russian intelligence. Again, he denies it. Perhaps he knew people who went on to be senior in Vladimir Putin's circle. He may have had information on them. That was another theory, again, that he denied. And so a man clearly of massive value to the Kremlin. They're obviously glad to have him home, but one whose real past has never been truly elucidated.
On This Is Life, I break the surface of.
Yeah, I think that was a fair trade. They let a gun runner, forget guns. He's got more than guns, allegedly, around the world. Not a nigga running guns from Virginia to New York. I'm talking about missiles are carrying on, allegedly. And he, for a girl that had about this much in oil. Yo. And they gonna leave this other guy in there? It ain't funny, yo. But yo, if you don't see the play, boy, man, if you don't see the play, boy, this is crazy, man. I'm telling you, there is something else going on right now. And this is a big distraction. I'm definitely going to be searching this news stories in the internet, because there's no way that is something else. I'm telling you, y'all, something else is going on right now in the world, and this is a huge distraction.